first thing you lose isn't your freedom, it's your sense of time. Out here, in the world you're living in right now, time is a river. It flows. You're late for work, you're early for dinner, you're rushing to the weekend. Time has a direction. But inside, time is a lake, a stagnant, deep, gray lake. It doesn't move. You just float in it, waiting to drown or waiting to be fished out. I spent 15 years staring at that lake. 15 years in a box where the geography of my life was measured in paces. 3 steps forward, turn. 3 steps back, turn. When you go in, you think the worst part will be the fear, the violence, the isolation. And don't get me wrong, those ghosts are real. But the true torture, the true punishment, wasn't the cage itself. It was the memory of what I wasted. Most people think they know what freedom is. I thought I knew. I thought freedom was a full wallet, an open highway, and Saturday night with no curfew. It took me 5,475 days of captivity to realize I was wrong. It took losing everything to learn the one thing, the only thing, that actually matters about being free. Let me tell you about the paradox of the supermarket. A journalist named Chung Lei, who spent years in detention, spoke about a concept called decision fatigue. When you are free, you are paralyzed by choice. What to wear, what to watch on Netflix, who to date, what career to pursue. You have 1,000,000 doors open to you, and because there are so many, you often stand in the hallway, anxious, picking none of them. You doom scroll, you procrastinate, you numb yourself. Lei said, freedom is wasted on the free. She essentially described freedom as winning the lottery, only to squander the money on nothing. In prison, decision fatigue vanishes. You don't decide when to wake up. You don't decide what to eat. You don't decide who your neighbor is. You don't even decide when the lights go out. This stripping away of choice is terrifying. It strips your identity. I remember feeling like I was disappearing, but then, about 3 years in, something strange happened. The noise stopped. Because I couldn't choose my circumstances, I was forced to confront the only thing I had left to choose, my mind. I met a man inside. Let's call him KB. This guy was facing a sentence that would likely end his life. He had every reason to be the angriest man in the block. He had been failed by the system, failed by his lawyers, failed by life. But every morning, KB looked like he knew a secret. One day, while we were walking the yard, I asked him, "How are you not screaming right now?" He stopped, looked at the high concrete walls, and smiled. He said, "They can lock up my body. They can lock up my future, but they can't lock up my joy. That's mine. I don't give them permission to take that." That was the first crack in the wall for me. I realized that while I was serving time, KB was using it. Michael Santos, a man who served 26 years, talked about this immense power of routine. He treated his cell like a university. He woke up at 2 a.m. every morning to write. He exercised until he collapsed. He didn't do it to look good. There was no one to impress. He did it because discipline was his rebellion. I started to copy that. I started running laps in a tiny recreational cage. 10 miles, 20 miles. Like a hamster on a wheel? Maybe. But every mile I ran was a middle finger to the walls. I learned that true freedom isn't the absence of walls. True freedom is the ability to command yourself when no one else is watching. Think about your life right now. You have the freedom to go anywhere, yet you might feel trapped in a job you hate. You have the freedom to eat anything, yet you feel trapped by an unhealthy body. You have the freedom to speak to anyone, yet you feel trapped by social anxiety. Why? Because you lack the internal freedom to govern yourself. We often think the opposite of freedom is slavery, but in the modern world, the opposite of freedom is impulse. If you are a slave to your impulses, to your anger, to your laziness, to your fear, you are in a prison, even if you're walking through a park on a sunny Tuesday. In my cell, stripped of impulses, I found a strange liberation. I learned mindfulness. I learned to sit with my own thoughts without grabbing a phone to distract me. I learned that I could feel fear and not act on it. I could feel anger and not throw a punch. Not. I became the captain of a very small ship, but for the first time in my life, I was actually steering it. There is a story about Anthony Ray Hinton, a man who spent 30 years on death row for a crime he didn't commit. When he was finally released, the thing that moved him to tears wasn't the news cameras or the hamburger he ate. It was the rain. He said feeling the rain on his face was a sacred sign of freedom. I remember the day I got out. I remember the smell of wet pavement. When you're inside, you live in a sensory vacuum. No colors, no smells other than bleach and sweat, no horizon. When you get that back, the world is virtually screaming with beauty. A cup of coffee isn't just caffeine. It's a miracle of warmth and flavor. A text from a friend isn't a distraction. It's a lifeline involving satellites and trust. It made me realize that most free people are sleepwalking. You are walking through a gallery of masterpieces. Your children's laughter, the taste of clean water, the ability to walk out your front door, and you are looking at the floor. Prison taught me that gratitude is the currency of freedom. If you aren't grateful for what you have, you're locked in a cell of scarcity. You're always wanting the next thing, the better thing, and that want, that hunger, that is a life sentence. So what is the one thing? If you take the discipline of Michael Santos, the joy of KB on death row, the mindfulness of Chung Lei, what is the common thread? Here is the truth, that 15 years in a cage burned into my soul. Freedom is not a location. Freedom is the gap between what happens to you and how you respond to it. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, said it best. They could take his wife, his clothes, his name, and his health, but the last of the human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. I saw men in prison who were freer than the guards watching them. The guards were trapped by their shifts, their pensions, their bitterness, their boredom. Some of the men in the cells, they were writing books. They were praying. They were forgiving the people who put them there. They had unlocked the door from the inside. You, watching this right now, you might feel stuck. Maybe it's debt. Maybe it's a heartbreak. Maybe it's just the crushing weight of the mundane. But you have a power that you are forgetting. You have the power to reframe. You have the power to endure with dignity. You have the power to find the best day of your life, even when the world says it should be your worst. I don't recommend prison to anyone. It is a brutal, dehumanizing place. I would give anything to have those 15 years back to spend with my family. But I brought a gift back from that dark place. I laid down the heavy burden of trying to control the world, and I picked up the light burden of controlling myself. Don't wait for the handcuffs to come off to start living free. Don't wait for the promotion, or the divorce, or the lottery win. Look at the rain. Choose your attitude. Master your own mind. Because the door to your cell, it isn't locked. It never was. You just have to stand up and walk through it.